Here it is, the 1 year full review of the Core Ice 6515 ST hybrid skid house wheelhouse. I used this thing the entire ice fishing season. I reached out to Core Ice at the beginning of the ice season back in the fall, and I said, hey, I'm in the market to buy a wheelhouse. I want to test a couple out. I want to make sure that I know what I'm getting before I buy it. I like yours. They're at the top of my list. How about I check it out this year, make a bunch of videos around it, the things that I like, the things that I don't like, where I think there's opportunity for improvement, who I think it's perfect for, and actual footage of using it out on the ice. So completely unbiased review. There was no exchange of money. I'm returning this thing next week. They don't sponsor any of my stuff. They don't even get to see this video before I post it. So I'm really excited to tell you what I think about it. We're gonna do a walk around the outside, all the exterior features, the interior features, the options, the durability, the setup time frames. We're going through everything in this video, so stick around, stay tuned until the end. Let's jump in. One of the first things you're gonna notice about this ice house is it has this stub nose on the front of it. That's right, it does angle in and it's got a flat nose on the front of it. This does act a little bit like a wind sail, but not fully like a wind sail, as if it had a totally flat front on it. You can tell when you're moving this thing around with your truck on the highway. I lose about 4 to 6 miles per gallon when I'm towing this thing. It's obviously less impactful if I don't have an ATV in here because it's so lightweight. It weighs about 1,600 pounds empty. Throw whatever machine you got in there, you got to add that obviously onto it. One thing that I will note is if you are pulling an ATV into the back of it, make sure you pull that as far up as you can so that way it gets over those wheels so you have a little bit more tongue weight. It is a very light trailer, so naturally it does not have a lot of tongue weight on it, and you're going to want to make sure that you don't have that weight all the way on the back. Get it all the way butted up to the front as far as you can get it because there's a cabinet in there that you're going to see. That's kind of your stopping point. I will note that this is really easy to connect and disconnect from your tow vehicle. This tongue goes up and down. By pulling 2 pins, you can go any way that you want, which is great for when it's in skid mode. It's also great for leaving it connected to your vehicle when you're pulling it out on the ice and you have it down or you have it up. You don't ever have to really disconnect it from your tow vehicle. One thing that I wish that they would consider maybe as an add-on in the future, maybe they already have it now and I just don't know about it, but it comes with a pedestal here for you to put 2 propane tanks on. It doesn't, I don't think it comes with this cover on it. I think they just gave it to me in this unit as a demo unit, but it'd be great if they had an enclosure box that they could put on it. One of those heated enclosure boxes, you've got power right here on the side, so it wouldn't be hard for them to have power in it. You could have a heated box, you could have a toolbox on the front of it. You've already got a stub nose, so why not do that? Put some of your tow straps in there, put some of your things in there, so that way you're not having to haul them around in the back of your truck or in the back of your ATV if you're taking that out. You have everything there. And on brutally cold winters, which we didn't have this year in Minnesota, it's nice to have a heated area for your tank. You have less regulator issues, less hose issues, less propane tank issues, extra pressure in those tanks when it gets to that frigid cold -40 and lower temps out. So one thing that I think would be cool if they added it in. On the 6515 ST Hybrid, you do get these rear jacks that are crank jacks for your drill. They work pretty good. A couple things that I would note though is depending on the ground that you're on, if you're not on a super level surface, it can be hard when this is fully extended and fully extended on your front jack to get that wheel to loosen up so you can pull the pin out. It would be great if they could find taller ones. I know that might be hard to do, but if you could get even an extra couple of inches, I think it would make a huge difference in being able to get those tires off there. In terms of the amount of time it takes to set up and crank up and crank down this house in terms of putting it into skid mode and taking it out, the biggest pain is actually grabbing these jacks from inside, hooking them up, getting your drill out, drilling it down, and then doing the opposite at the end of the day. What I think would be really cool is because they use an electric jack in the front. What would be cool is this is 6.5 wide. You don't want to take up space inside for your machine to have electric jacks inside. Why don't they mount to this point that they already have on here, an electric jack, and just put it in an enclosure box that has an opening or something? You already have to have the width because of your tire. Make sure that it doesn't come out more than, what is that, probably a foot out. And that way you'll have full electric jacks all the way around. Push of a button, you can go up, you can go down. It would be awesome. And I think it would significantly reduce the amount of time picking it up, dropping it down, and getting those wheels off of the ground for when you want to go into skid mode. In terms of other exterior enhancements, something that I think would be cool is if they had a mount on here, either on this part here, on the side of it, for you to be able to put a spare tire. There's no spot for a spare tire mount on this right now. I think that would be absolutely incredible if they could add that on here somewhere. I'm sure you could probably find a mount or a bracket yourself, but why not have it as an accessory for people to accessorize when they buy these things? We'll do a quick little walk around here. You can see I've got that back jack down. My driveway is pretty steep, so that's what you're seeing, a little bit of an angle here. You've got your door there. You've got an outlet up front. You've got a keypad here right behind the propane tanks, which is nice because that works your front tongue. You've got your tongue on it, all of your hookups and everything up top. That is a work light that goes on at night to give you a little bit of ambiance and a little bit of light when you're working outside. On this side, you've got your 30 amp hookup, and you've got a vent hole there and a vent hole there for your sealed lead acid batteries, or if you have vented batteries that you want to go ahead and put in there. This side's about the same. You've got the Truma forced air furnace output on this side here. You've got your two vents that vent outside, one in a closet slash bathroom, one over the stove. Nice big window here. And as we get further to the back here, you've got your big toy hauler door. The one thing that I give Core a lot of credit for is I think for the size of this house, this is the largest toy hauler door opening out of anybody on the market. I'll put on the screen here exactly the dimensions of this thing. I know I looked just before this video, and Yeti and Ice Castle's doors, their toy hauler doors on their biggest 6.5 foot houses, still do not have anything that even matches that opening. And I have a tracked ATV, and every inch of that I definitely could use. So pretty sharp looking unit. Here's the outside of it. You can see the antenna on the top. There's also a vent on the top as well. Let's go ahead, jump inside. Inside, first things first, what I absolutely love about this ice house, in all of Core's ice houses for that matter, is how modular everything is. You've got your bunk, which you could take this off if you want. You can leave it on here. You can leave it in the top position. You can move it down. You can take the whole thing out. You can put storage stuff up there, which is how I used it primarily this year. This dinette, not only do these fold up and you can take them out of the way for open space, you can actually take them off so that way you can use the Core rail system behind it. Absolutely love how modular it is. You could take one side out, leave one side in. There's a table here that you can put in. You can put a seat. There's a spot for a seat here, a spot for a seat there, spot for a seat here. So you can move a boat seat all the way around. This right here, you can use as a couch, fold it out to be a bed, fold it against the wall, pull your thing in, just use chairs. Like there's so much that you can do, not only with the dinette, the chairs, the bed, and the sofa here, but you also have all of the Core rail system. The Core rail system is absolutely phenomenal. Nobody else has anything like it. Some of the competitors have the boards that go across, or I guess if you're in a ice house that has wood walls, you can screw into the walls. But what's absolutely great about this Core rail system is that anything, you can just take it off and you can move it anywhere that you want on the rail. And if there's a rail missing someplace where you really want it, you can just add more rail in anywhere that you want, and that way nothing's fixed to the wall. You don't have a bunch of screw holes. You can literally move it. And what's great about this is every trip that you go out, because one of the benefits of this size ice house is how compact it is. It's 6.5 feet wide by 15.5 feet long. What that's gonna get you is out on early ice. Like I had said earlier in the video, it's 1,550 pounds dry weight, just under 1,600 pounds dry weight. On skids, it puts less pressure on the ice than you walking with your boots. Absolutely phenomenal. You pull this thing out with the machine, you're not gonna have any issues out on that early ice, late ice, middle of the winter ice, taking it out on the skids, taking it out on skis, taking it out on wheels. You're truly good to go. But what comes with that is if you're going out and doing a solo trip, set it up in one way for you to be solo out here. You want the table up over here so that way you can work on your laptop like I did a lot of times, or you're gonna be doing some live streaming. You want a camera up there. You wanna leave the dinette in so you can have a family dinner here. Go ahead and do that. If you wanna pull this bed down, leave this up so that way you can just work from your bed and then have this whole floor space open. Every trip can be different, whether it's a solo trip, 2 people coming out, 3 people coming out, you doing day trips. It's absolutely nice how customizable it is in modular based off of what you want to get. Now, along that same line, in terms of modular, one of the things that I do wish they did a little bit more of is storage space. You can see back here behind me is a core shelving unit. So this unit right here clips onto the core rail, which you can see goes all the way across below the light, all the way inside of this house. So all the way across the top, you've got that core rail, and then you've also got the core rail that you can see right here at this level all the way around the house as well. What's missing is a lot of the cabinets because they have the core rail. So in terms of cabinets that they've got one right here, which is directly above the TV. So you've got your TV here, you've got one cabinet. The cabinets are nice. I like the doors. I like everything about them. And you can see you get a little bit of nice storage space inside of it, but it would be nice to have more because on this wall, that's the only cabinet that you have. And then you've got these little cubbies up here in the corner, which are nice because not all models have those cubbies, I found out. But you've got these cubbies up here, which are gonna allow you to put things that you wanna charge because you've got some charging cords there, in there. You've got your core panel down below as well. This is just an extra backer plate for the core rail system if you want to. Then you've got, where you've got your stove in the corner here, you've got a small little cabinet here. And that's where you'd probably put your manual, extra power cords and things like that. That's it. So there's only 2 cabinets that are out here in the main area. And so that's where this thing comes in handy, which does not come with the trailer. So you have to buy these separately. I think they're $160 on their website. They might have a few different options of them, but either make these in different sizes, maybe so that you can have a cabinet that you can put on the core rail system. That would be pretty cool. Or give options to have more of a built-out cabinet because that storage space, to me at least, is kind of a big deal. So one place that they do have a couple of other cabinets, which is nice, is in the front closet. Inside of the front closet, what you've got is your 2 battery compartments down here. There's not really any space to store anything. I guess maybe you can a little bit if you don't mind putting stuff in there around your batteries, but the top and bottom cabinets down there are exactly the same. When you get to the top, you do have 2 cabinets up here. So if you're looking inside of the bathroom, you've got 2. So if you're using this for toiletries, if you're using it for food, that's fine. But then you've still only got those 2 cabinets. If you want to put anything by the batteries, the one by the microwave, and the one up here. Now granted, not everybody's coming out on the ice with as much stuff as I am whenever I come ice fishing. But if you're going to be using it year round, you like to leave stuff out here. You want to leave your pizza pan and your utensils out here. You want to leave some food out here, some snacks out here, paper plates, power cords, extension cords. You don't really want to leave all that stuff hanging out on the floor. You want to keep it clean. So cabinets are a great way to do that. So as I'm talking about all the core rail and how much I love that and how they have that in here, I think there's a couple of spots for additional core rail that should come standard. So let me show you. Inside of the front closet, there's a core rail that I had them put in right here for me. So this is on the right wall when you walk in. I think there should absolutely be a core rail there. That's where your jack should go. Not out here in the front entry room, which is where it comes standard. I think that could be used either for your table or for you to put all your accessories, tables, and other things on, like if you have a flip down table or something like that, rather than having your jacks out there, because if you're out on the ice, you don't want that sitting out there. If you go up a little bit, I think there's an opportunity to have another standard core rail right above that one down below. What that's going to get you is a place to put your drill. You could put some hooks on there as well, like I did to put some trash bags in, recycling bags, rags, that type of thing. But that's a great spot for you to put a few other accessories. And then, heck, while you're at it, there should be another core rail there and maybe even one down there as well. So depending on how you use this space, if you're going to truly use it as a closet in storage, or if you're going to use it as a bathroom, put a bucket in here or a dry flush toilet, it's nice to have those options and they're not really in the way. So I think that would be a couple of spots for some nice standard core rail to be added in. The lighting in this ice house is pretty phenomenal. These are huge windows that are in here. This is the biggest one. This is actually an emergency exit on the back here. You've got a nice one right here that you can see when you're sitting down on the sofa bed here or any of the other spots, then you've got a nice window here in the door. So there is a ton of light in here during the day. And then you can see, of course, the core lights that are up top. One place that I'd love to see them add an additional light is underneath the bunk bed. Now I get that it's removable, so maybe they'll just need to be like a quick plug or something that you can plug in. What I did is that black spot right back there, that's actually a USB hookup spot as well as 12 volt cigarette lighter type plug. So I ran a cord from there up the pole and actually plugged 2 light bars in underneath there. If you are getting closer to the end of the day, you don't have any light coming in from the windows, and then your dinette spot here, whether you're working from it like I was or even eating from it, it can get pretty dark pretty quick. So I think it'd be great if they add a couple of lights in there. The other thing from a power standpoint is while they do, yes, have 2 USB ports and a cigarette lighter port, I think that it would be absolutely great if they also threw an outlet in back here. The closest outlet that you have sitting back here at the dinette is right up here on the front cabinet. So what I've been having to do is run an extension cord all the way back on the ground over behind there, and then I could actually plug in a laptop and a couple of things over here on the table. So the furthest back outlets that you have are this one on the front cabinet up there, and then if you wanted to, inside of this cabinet where the TV plugs in, there's also a 110 volt AC up there that you could run a cord down from, but who wants to have a cord hanging down from there? So that's why I do it from that spot up there. So as we're looking at the TV here, what we can see is the way that it hooks up is you've got a power cord and audio video cords that go up into the cabinet from the TV. That's what powers the TV. Well, if you're like me, and I think is gonna get more and more popular nowadays, is people will have a fish finder, whether it be live scope or something like that, a fish camera that they'll have mounted down here or sitting on the floor down in front of them, is they aren't gonna wanna have those things always having to power off of an external battery. So what would be sweet is if on the bottom of this cabinet, right up in here, why don't they put a 12 volt power port or 2, maybe barrel plugs or something like that, and then maybe even an AC port if we wanted, since they got power up there already. Throw a couple of those on the bottom there, so that way if people want to hook a few other things up, again, it doesn't need to be included standard, but if you wanted to add it in as an option, I think that would be absolutely great in terms of customizability and how people are going to be using these ice houses. All right, let's talk about the heater in this thing. This is the Truma forced air furnace. It's a high efficiency German made furnace, and I have to say I'm highly impressed. This thing is phenomenal. You've got 2 outlet ports, you've got one here in the front, and then you've got one on the cabinet right down there. So you may first think to yourself, gosh, that it probably isn't going to get you very good circulation inside of this house, knowing how far back it goes. Well, that's what I thought, and so what I did is I put a little USB fan up here and a little USB fan up there to be able to pull the heat from this area back over here and blow it down towards the door, because I thought that's where the cold air was going to be. What I found out is there was absolutely no need for that. This thing actually was able to get the heat circulated throughout very, very nicely. Even on days where it was negative 15 out degrees temperature, it did a phenomenal job. One of the other really great things about this furnace, it's got an auto speed fan. What that means is it doesn't just run on or off. It doesn't run low or high. It runs continuously variable. So most of the time, it's when you have the heat on, if it needs a little bit of heat, it's just gonna barely have the fan running just to keep that airflow and your temperature at the perfect temperature. So you can see right now, if you look at the screen, I've got it set to 55 in here. This ice house is gonna stay at exactly 55 degrees temperature because of this furnace. It doesn't go down to 53, kick back in to get to 55, or even a 1 degree swing, 54 to 56. It stays at 55. If it's really cold out and it needs to boost itself in, it can go into, I don't know what they call it, but it's like a turbo mode where the fan really kicks in and it is loud, but it's only loud for a couple of seconds and then it calms down, and it won't be like that ever again unless you're like 30 degrees off and you had it off all night or something like that. So I am highly impressed with this furnace. I thought that we were gonna have some circulation issues with just this front cabinet having those 2 air ducts, but I didn't have that issue at all. I was able to get air all the way back there, sitting back there by the table, no issues at all, even on the coldest of nights, even with holes open in the floor. I'm highly impressed about that. All right, let's talk about this door. So the door handle on here and everything are just fine. Where I ran into a couple of interesting situations is this door latch is just screwed in like any other door latch that's on there. And what happens is when I go to shut it, is I pull it, I gotta pull it tight. This is a very firm rubber that they have on here, which is nice, but it should be thicker and maybe a little bit more pliable, because what happens is I either have to pull really hard to the point where I'm like bending this handle, afraid it's gonna break, in order to get that seal just right. Now, if I adjust it out just a tad, so that way I don't need to pull with every muscle in my body to get it to shut, then what happens is I start getting cracks along the door. So while I've been able to, I think, get it in the sweet spot here in terms of adjusting it, as that seal changes over time, as the temperature changes, I may have to continually adjust it. If this was going to be my ice house that I was keeping, what would be great is if they could find maybe a little bit of a different seal that maybe is a little bit more pliable and it could be thicker and it can squish in. I'm not sure if there's a type of foam or something like that could do it, but it's not bad. I never had any crack inside of the door where I was having a lot of draft come in after I adjusted it, but it did take a little bit of adjusting from the factory in order to make sure that it sealed up just awesome. Something else to note that's, I think, pretty important is if you're sleeping up here or you're gonna be sleeping on the dinette when it's down into a bed position, what you're gonna see is, that's right, this is the back door of the ice house. This is the toy hauler floor that you can see here. What I think would be great is, because when you get into the thick of winter, this thing is gonna be dirty. And who wants to lay their head down here with their pillow right up against that door? So I think there's maybe a couple of options. One, I think it would be cool if there was like a curtain, like some sort of an insulated vinyl or something that could roll down or drop down. So once you're inside, you put that there and then you go up against that rather than this hard black floor that is probably going to be very dirty if you're using it as a toy hauler and bringing your machine in and out. I think that's one option. The other option that is solvable right now by the person doing it is have mats or something that you put down every time you use it. But that is a pain. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I think it would be great if Core offered some sort of an accessory that could hang or drape down over that, so that way you're not laying and rolling up against it and you're getting all dirty and potentially wet if there was some slush on it and you were going to bed right after you got here, pulled the machine out type of thing. One of the things that's fairly unique about Core houses from a lot of the other ice houses that are out there on the market is this panel. So they run everything through this panel. You've got all your different zones for lighting, your jacks, you've got everything on here. And the question is, do I like it? I would say yes and no. I really like how everything's right here at my fingertips. I love how much customizability there is. And I love the fact that knowing everything is here, all of the wiring inside of here, because you don't have little switches everywhere, all of the wiring is serviceable inside of these ice houses, which is one thing that I really like. I know that if I were to run into any wiring issues, it's gonna be very easy to solve because there's a map for it and it's all up in the top channel, really easy to get to. So those are the reasons that I really like it, and I probably wouldn't change anything if I were Core, if it were me, if this is the alternative to what's out there on the market today. Now, where is there opportunity potentially in the future for this to improve? If there's Bluetooth keypads that you could put like a cell coin battery in or something like that, that could work with these, I think that would be phenomenal to have a couple of those that you can stick on a wall. And maybe it's a coin cell battery that needs to be replaced once every 2 years or something like that. I don't know if this exists. I don't know if the company Yak Power that makes these panels has something like that, but I think that would be great. So that way, when you go into the bathroom, there's a little button on the wall that you can push to turn that light on. If you're back there in bed, there's one quick little button that you can use. I know that there's a phone app that you can use and it does work, but then you gotta pull out your phone, you gotta open the app. When you just get up in the middle of the night, you're gonna go to the bathroom, you just wanna turn that light on. I think that would be great. The other thing that I wish that there was on here is some sort of presets. Maybe there's a way to do it on your phone. I don't know of a way to do it here on this panel, but if there's a way to say, because there's so much customizability, which I absolutely love and don't get rid of it, but like the color, there's like 5 levels of brightness that you can have. There's like 5 different zones in here. Like it'd be cool if there was like ice fishing 1 zone or ice fishing 2 or party zone or sleeping zone, like, and it will just automatically set all the scenes for you. Maybe it's in the app, I'm not 100% sure, but those are just my thoughts on the way that they do the lighting inside of this ice house. I do like it. I am not complaining at all. Don't hear me as complaining. I just have a couple of ideas that if somebody, Yak Power, somebody wanted to improve on it in the future, I think they'd be some pretty killer ideas. All right, let's talk sleeping arrangement. So this is where I slept most of the time out here on the ice. In fact, I think every night that I slept out here, this is where I slept. There was, I think, a couple of times I opened it up so that way it was totally flat and I laid on it and that was fine. But I found myself so comfortable just like this. What I would do is I'd stack my pillows up here. I'd have just a blanket that goes over me. I didn't even use a sleeping bag this year, which is great. And then I would just lay there like that. That way I could ice fish this hole and that hole, have my live scope there, have the TV on, throw YouTube on there or something like that, a movie, a football game, and I'm good to go. So this thing is comfortable. Up in that position, you can easily fit 1 person with a pillow and a blankie. Lay it down, you could squish 2 people on there. That wouldn't be a problem. Back here, I did not sleep on this, but it's the same padding, so I expect it to be just as comfortable. So you can lay that down into 1 bed. And then of course, this one up here. So you've got 3 bed situations in here. I like it. I do wish that this could somehow have maybe another step in between. I think that would be great because sometimes you don't want it to go all the way down there, especially if you've got a bigger person on this bottom one. There's a way to have like a step up just a few inches here. I think that would be great as well. But again, I'm getting nitpicky now, but the sleeping arrangements in here are nice. These are very comfortable mats. I can tell though, you can't tell based off of feeling it or by looking at it, but I can tell when I sit on this exactly where I sat most of the time because the foam is worn in a little bit more. So I can tell. I'm not sure if that's normal, if that's something that with all foam you're gonna have to deal with, but these are some pretty nice sleeping arrangements. All right, let's talk about this kitchen. So how usable is it? What are my thoughts on it? First things first, I want to talk about the appliances. So this stove oven combo, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It's not one of the small little janky things where it looks like you're in like a little 3-burner camp stove. This thing has got it going on. You got your full grate across the top, 3 burners. I love that they've got the vent fan right here for when you're doing your fish fries out here, when you're cooking anything else up there, you got a lot of steam going. It is awesome. You got this fancy little light that goes on there. You've got your oven down here, lots of space in there. I really like it. So in terms of usability, like I will tell you this, it is game changing being able to use an oven out on the ice. Throw a pizza in, pizza rolls, whatever you want, having a stovetop, game changing. If you're like me and you're used to ice camping on the ice without all of these amenities, once you get them, it's hard to go back, I'll tell you that much. Microwave. I only used it maybe a couple of times this ice fishing season, but what I will tell you is that if you're out here on day trips a lot, it is super nice to be able to just pop something in the microwave, use it up, and you're good to go. Like that is not common when you're out hopping around on the lake usually. In terms of usability, in terms of where do you put everything, one thing that I would recommend is, and they should almost make it standard, is on this wall having a magnetic tool rack. That way you can put knives, scissors, utensils, things that are metal up against there and it's magnetic. I think that would work really good. I also put a little bit of a shelf right here with a basket just to put some hand soap and things in there. That's directly above the stovetop. Behind it so the heat wouldn't get to it, just to store a few things into. You could use it as a spice rack or something like that. And then this is the only cabinet that you have out here. So if you're worried about utensils and a place to put them, this could be a good spot. Otherwise, in the front closet, I did also store some in those top cabinets there. Again, it kind of gets back to the storage conversation. I do think that if you can get a couple of these baskets, you're gonna be golden in terms of being able to put stuff in them. Paper towel holder, so they've got this in here as an option. This thing is great. It doesn't free spool off. It doesn't take up any counter space in terms of where you're gonna put your paper towels. It's absolutely a necessity you have to have if you get one of these ice houses. Highly recommend that. The reason why I'm so big on cabinets and those storage things is because you have to remember this thing moves down the road. So anything that you set out on the counter, anything that you put on a shelf somewhere, it's gonna take a beating. Jumping up and down the road, bouncing all around. You don't wanna have to pick everything up every time that you move this thing. You wanna put it in a spot where it's just gonna stay and you're not gonna have to ever worry about it. What I did with my pots and pans is I just put them inside of the oven. So I put my pots and pans and hot holders and things in here, and then I just shut the oven door, and then boom, they're safe and ready to go when I'm going down the road. So just make sure you take them out before you preheat the oven, of course. Inside of the front closet cabinet thing, what I did is I put a bucket toilet here. This is perfect for a dry flush toilet. Highly recommend it. You've got your fan up here in case you're using this as a bathroom. It's nice for that ventilation. And then of course you've got your two cabinets up there. This is the perfect size space to have and use as a bathroom. You've got a door on it that does have a lock on it in case you wanted to lock the door, if you're worried about people coming in while you're using the bathroom, or if you want to store some things in here that you don't want people to have access to when they're coming into and out of your trailer. You can see here, this is one of the electric jacks that I was talking about that I wish they would put maybe one of these on each of the sides on the outside, build a little box around it. You can see how small that space is that it's in right now. Why not do that outside so that way you're good to go. You don't need to be moving these jacks around outside with your drill, mounting them, taking them off, and so forth. These things are great. I had no issue with this thing at all. I really like it. In terms of wiring, they did a phenomenal job in here. They thought through a lot. I know I, of course, had some recommendations on where they can put extra outlets and things, but they did a really nice job with it, and they're almost everywhere you would want already. Their panel in here is really well done in terms of where they've got fuses, the breakers. I love that they have the power converter on its own breaker, so that way if you are hooking up your own inverter type solution in here to be able to use the microwave, use some of those higher powered electronics, or your outlets at all, just running off of a battery without using a generator, that's super easy to do with the way that they got this thing wired up. So props to them on that. Highly, highly impressed with how they did that. All right, let's talk about durability and performance. So in terms of the interior side of this thing, any wind, weather, rain, snow, leaks, any of those problems that I had this year were zero. This thing is awesome. I power washed this thing this year, power washed all of the floor out, even hit the back walls a little bit this year. Because it has nothing in it that's gonna rot, mold, mildew, fall apart, decay. There's no wood in here. It's all composite, fiberglass, foam, glue, aluminum, really, really well done stuff. And that's one of the things that I really like about Core Ice House. And I feel like now that I've been in one of these and used one of them and not having to worry about any of that, it's gonna be really hard for me to move to anything else that isn't that same way. So Core, really nice job on that. Props. There's nothing in here that I would say needed to be done a better quality, better wise. The attention to detail in the workmanship, in the cabinets, in everything is absolutely incredible. I don't see corners around things where there's gaps and cracks and issues. They've just done a very nice job. They use CNC machines. They use exact, precise measurements, which you can tell they take a lot of pride in their work. One of the things that I did earlier this year, and I had a Black Hole Ice House, which uses the same type of floor. They buy their floors from Core Ice House the last 2 years before this year. And so this wasn't foreign to me, but something that I want to call out. The floor that's in here is a fiberglass type resin floor. I'm not sure exactly the terminology for it, but the floors that they have in here are non-slip. It's not rubber. It's got like a groove in it, like a wood pattern, but it's not wood either. These are the best ice fishing floors you can get because they're non-slip, they're not gonna fall apart, they're not gonna decay, they're not gonna get ripped up. I pulled my ATV in here with chains on it earlier this year when I was out on super early ice and I was pulling this thing around. Not a single issue on this floor, on this back black toy hauler door or on this floor. And it was being towed down the road with chains on it on this floor, strapped down. And of course you get a little wiggle, no issues at all. This thing is made to last. And I highly recommend how they construct their ice houses. I have not seen another brand build to the quality that they have here.
This material here is an example of our flooring. The fiberglass that we order is made to our specifications for strength, where we have actual woven fabric and then another layer of random fabric under the gel coat. The gel coat's just there as sprinkles on the cake, but the panel itself is actually very strong, expensive structural foam or fiberglass. And what we did here to get wood grain in here.
I can't even bend this even if I wanted to.
We spent a couple years with our vendor coming up with a wood grain that looked good. So we really helped develop this, brought it into this market in the US. But essentially you have a wood grain texture that keeps you from slipping on the floor even when it's wet, but it's part of the panel. So it's not a coating, it's not a layer that's gonna peel off, it's in the resin.
Let's talk about the skids and their durability. So this is what the skid toes look like. These are a plastic material. This one's looking really good. Let's head on over to this side and you can see, that's right, it's buckling a little bit here. From my understanding after talking to Core, is these things are intended to handle up to 5 miles an hour, and it's a crumple zone to help protect that frame in the ski behind it. These are replaceable parts, but they're not cheap to replace. So I would make sure that you're being very cautious as you're using it out on the ice. I've used normal ice houses in the past that just have wheels on them, and I use snow toe skis, aluminum skis on them. And the thing that I noticed is because those skis were wider, is it floated better. Now granted, this year we didn't have a ton of snow, so it was hard to do a side-by-side comparison. This thing worked well, and so it's definitely still a huge benefit in a feature of this ice house. But I do wish, maybe in a future version, if they could make these skis a little bit wider, I think that would be great. You can see how wide the toe is on this. And then if you go back, you can see how not wide the rest of it is on the frame. If it was that same width all the way back, you'd have a massive difference in terms of how much flotation you're gonna get and how well it's gonna work as a skid house. One other thing to note if you're gonna be using this thing as a skid house is if you hit dirt or gravel or sand at any point, it is gonna be incredibly hard to pull because of your friction coefficient. You're gonna probably wanna pop it up on its wheels. I ran into that at Lake of the Woods getting over Pine Island. I had to pop it up to get it over on really early ice. There was no snow out and no ice built up, so that's what I had to do. So something to know as you're thinking about using this as a skid house. Another thing to note is early ice. If you're gonna be taking this out with an ATV or a machine on glare ice, you need to have chains. If you don't have chains on your machine, it isn't going anywhere. Now, in a vehicle that's a lot heavier, you're probably gonna be able to pull this no problem without chains, but on an ATV, you're gonna need chains to pull this thing out on glare ice. One of the other things, if you're gonna be using this as a skid house, that I wanna comment on, even if you're using it as a wheelhouse, but when you pop it down, you do have the skis all the way on the side, so that's gonna give you a good seal on the side, but your back in the front of the ice house are wide open. It would be great if they had a flap or something that went down here for you to be able to prevent all of that draft from going under, because you can see the ski goes all the way on that side in this whole back gap until you get to the other side. It's of course done that way so that way you can use it as a skid house, because you can't have that back frame touching the ground if you're skidding it across the ice. But when you're not skidding it, you want to make sure that you don't have that draft going under. So what are my final thoughts, and would I recommend this ice house? First, I love this thing. I absolutely love it. If we have more winters like we did this year and last year here in Minnesota, there's gonna be so many people, like this is the perfect ice house for them, because it's a 6.5 by 15.5, big enough for a few people for day trips, big enough for a couple of full-grown people to be able to do overnights in, especially if you're a family, because it's close quarters. You've got that front closet in there. It's lightweight at 1,550 pounds dry weight. You can add an additional, 1,500 pounds of a machine in it. The biggest toy hauler door on the market for these from what I've been able to find. Let me know down in the comments if you find anything bigger, because I have not found one that has a bigger opening than this, which is critical on these ice houses that are 6.5 wide. It's super lightweight, easy to tow. It's, from a construction standpoint, feature set standpoint, it is awesome. Now, who do I think this is not for? I do not believe that this is going to be for anybody that has a big family that wants to consistently get 3 or more people out on the ice. You're going to want to upgrade. One of the ice houses that I'm interested in looking at potentially next year is the 8-foot wide model versus 6.5 foot wide and 19 feet long. I think that you're going to get a lot more space. It's a lot roomier, so you're going to be able to get a few more people in there. While it is not going to be a hybrid for that bigger model, what you are going to be able to still do is use snow toe skis or any other aftermarket skis. Heck, maybe Core Ice should come out with some skis for their bigger houses too. They slide right underneath the wheels and hook up to the tongue, so that way you can pull it just like a skid house. You do still have to raise it and lower it every time. Benefit of this house is you don't have to do that, but I highly recommend these houses. I'm very impressed. Again, this is not sponsored. I'm not paid to say it. I don't have to say it. I could say I think this thing is a pile of doo-doo, which I do not think, but this thing is great. Yes, it is not the cheapest on the market. Yes, there are cheaper models out there, but what I will say is it's not as big of a price difference as you think. I looked at some ice castles, I looked at some Yetis in comparison to this. This is a little bit more expensive. I'd say anywhere between 15 to 30% more expensive, but this will last you way, way longer than any of those ice houses. It's way lighter, and I think from a feature set standpoint, you're getting just as much, if not more, out of these Core Ice houses. So that's what I think. Let me know down in the comments if you thought this video was helpful for you, whether you're looking at a Core Ice house or any other on the market. Did I talk about anything in the video that made your mind churn, maybe help you make a better decision on the ice house that you're gonna be getting? Let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think I should be trying to get my hands on for next year. And until next time, take it easy.